Hi everybody, my name is Ethony and I am more than delighted to be this month's guest mentor for Witch Ways for September 2021. And this month's theme is Mabon Moon. So we're going to get all into the autumn equinox. So we're going to start with a little bit of history about Mabon. This is a Sabbat. This is a sacred day on the witch's wheel, or the wheel of the year, for modern pagans and witches and everyone under that umbrella who chooses to celebrate the different seasons of the planet. Another name for Mabon is the autumn equinox, and in 2021 it is on the 22nd of September. Now, if you are in the southern hemisphere, you would have already celebrated Mabon back in March, but hopefully all of this information can be helpful the next time you go and celebrate the autumn equinox. Now, there are 2 solstices and 2 equinoxes every year. An equinox means equal. So that means that the day and the night are of equal length. So balance is a huge theme for this time of year, and you're going to see that throughout this video when it comes to weather patterns, mythology, astrology, etc. You will know that the equinox is happening when the sun crosses the celestial equator. This is when the day, as I mentioned, the day and night are of the same length. So anytime you see that happening, you will know it is an equinox. The other time we have one is at spring. Mabon is also known as the second harvest. And during this time, the foods that are harvested are more of the root vegetables, such as beets, carrots, potatoes, parsnips, all those sort of yummy root veggies. And also apples are a big thing that are harvested at this time of year. Other fruits that are harvested are grapes, pears, and plums. Basically, it is a time for a lot of delicious food, and I love me a good potato. When autumn starts to be ushered in, we see a lot of change, especially in the flora and fauna in North America, in the United States and in Canada, and also in different places in Europe. One of the big things you will find that happens is the trees start to turn. They start to turn beautiful, vibrant reds and oranges and yellows, and it looks like the forest has been lit up with this incredible show from nature. What actually happens, what causes this change of color, is with the cooler nights and the longer nights, the chlorophyll inside the leaves, which makes it green, actually disappears, and then you're left with all these rich autumn colors. Another interesting fact about the trees at this time is that maple trees start to produce a lot of syrup, and it is a massive industry for a lot of people in North America. Not only are delicious syrups, butters, creams, and sugars taken from these trees, but it actually also brings a lot of people in tourist-wise to these locations in New England and in Canada mostly to observe lots of maple festivals. So if you're going to work with any tree at this time, birch is great, but maple is a wonderful tree if you can find it to have on your altar, or even collect some of their beautiful red leaves to place on it. One of the other major things we can see with the flora and fauna is migration. A lot of birds and animals and even butterflies start to do their thing to prepare for winter. Less than a quarter of all bird species actually fully migrate, which means they leave an area completely in search of better food and warmer weather. You will also see lots of foraging animals start to prepare for the colder months. So bears are going to start to load up on as much fatty food as they possibly can find, so lots and lots of fish, so that they are going to be able to sleep through and hibernate. Squirrels are going to be on the lookout for nuts and anything else they can bring into their burrows so they have enough for the winter. You'll find this happening across all of the animals in this time of year. Did you know that even birds prepare for winter by gaining a significant amount of weight? Another seasonal marker, if you live anywhere near a mountain range, is that you're going to find a lot of animals start to descend from the higher elevation of those mountains and hills and come down closer to the base. That is obviously because it's going to start snowing, and they need to be where they can still find food under smaller layers of snow and even sometimes continuous fresh water that's not frozen. You'll find animals like deer do this quite regularly, and a lot of birds do as well. Other animals such as caribou and reindeer are actually nomadic, which means they will move consistently with the seasons. And indigenous peoples will actually follow these incredible animals as they are vital to their lives. One of the things you can do around this season is to have a seasonal journal. Crack out your pen and paper and actually see what happens in your local area, as every area around the world has its own beautiful ecological system. What butterflies or moths are you seeing in the area? When does the temperature start to feel like that cold snap is coming in? What fruits and vegetables are coming into season? If you have a garden in your community, what is being harvested at this time? It's all very well and good to get information from people, but really observing your own area and what is happening in nature is going to make your practice so much deeper. Of course, we have got a lot of mythology from around the world about the spring equinox. If you have been studying the craft at all for a little while, you'll see that everywhere around the world, with the seasonal changes and celebrations and harvests, there are often gods and goddesses that have stories that reflect what is going on in nature, and Mabon is no exception. Let's start with the Celtic god Mabon. That's right, there is an actual deity that's name is the actual Sabbat. Mabon was known as the child of light and was the son of the great mother Modron. In this Welsh myth, Mabon was stolen from his mother after he was born at the beginning of time, only 3 days after his birth. And as his mother grieved, light was stolen from the land as she was consumed with sadness. Mabon was actually held in a stone cell, and during this time, all of the animals and flora started to retreat. Everything started to get darker as the mother also grieved her son. Now, in the Welsh mythology, they would celebrate Mabon's return to the light at the winter solstice. And then they would also celebrate mother's return and all of the nutrients and all the animals and flora coming back at the spring equinox. So while it is a very sad tale, you'll see that this common thread of a child going within, being stolen or going to the underworld is common throughout the world. One of the most prevalent mythologies in the Greek pantheon is that of Persephone and Demeter. There are many tellings of this myth. What is commonly known is that Persephone is lured to the underworld by Hades, where she eats 6 pomegranate seeds and actually seals her fate to spend 6 months of the year in the underworld and to then be returned for 6 months on the surface. When she disappeared, her mother Demeter, who was an earth goddess, went into a very similar state as Mabon's mother. She really got mad at the gods, first of all. She tried to find out what happened to her daughter, and she actually cursed the world to bear no fruit while she was missing. She searched everywhere for her daughter and finally found her in the underworld with Hades. She struck a bargain, and it was known that Persephone was able to come back up to Earth. When Persephone arrives in the spring, and all of the animals and plants rejoice with Demeter with her return. And then they go within when she returns to the underworld 6 months later. What is interesting with this myth is that Demeter was a grain and harvest goddess, which is another connection to the autumn equinox. And Persephone actually has more than one modality, more than one persona. She is a maiden goddess, but she's also queen of the underworld, and she has a lot of death sort of connections there. So she's more than one thing. And all of this is a great reminder that you can be more than one powerful archetype in your life. A very well celebrated Greek god is Dionysus, and the Roman version of that is Bacchus. And Dionysus was a very liberal god. Dionysus was a god of wine, grapes, and basically like drunken parties. He was very well known for being very hedonistic. Everyone would come to these festivals and get very intoxicated, lose their clothing, and then just get taken away on the night. And his connection with the grapes and the vine connects him to the autumn equinox as well. Remember, if you're going to have any parties like that, be safe, consent, don't get an STI. Take care of yourself, witches. It's very important. Another set of deities that you may want to look into for the autumn equinox is the green man and woman. This is a figure seen with green foliage all around them, with oak leaves often seen coming out of their mouths. This was the guardian of the forest and all that lay within. He is a creative expression of the male god, bringing protection, creation, and frivolity. The green man also heralds the cycles of the natural world, leading us into darkness and then back into light, with the connections of birth, death, and rebirth. Like all mythology from around the world, there are a number of retellings, so I highly recommend that you do your own research if you want to welcome any of these gods or work with them in your practice. This is a jump off point for you to discover all of the different myths of Mabon and find which one really speaks to your soul. You may already know one of these Mabon celebration ideas, and it's one of my favorites as it has become a very popular celebration in North America, and one that I like to move away from and actually have it into this more pagan, more inclusive, and a lot less genocidal than Thanksgiving. So I like to call this the autumn equinox or Mabon gratitude dinner. So what I would do with my friends and family is have everyone bring a dish to share. The table would be set up with apples and with colored themes of the season, like gold and red and orange and yellow and deep, deep purple. There would be candles and it would all look very, very festive. All the food would be laid out on the table. If they're able to as well, I ask they bring a pine cone to add to the centerpieces, and we'll use them later in the little ritual. So everybody holds hands around the table before they eat, and a blessing for the second harvest is given. This is usually spoken by the person who is hosting the event. This is something that they will write from the heart, that they are thankful for the food on the table, for the fact that they can gather with their friends and family, and that they have all of these important people in their lives to help them and help the community get through the dark times of winter. Then everyone would go around the table in a clockwise fashion and say what they are the most grateful for the season. Then the meal is enjoyed. I love a good old spice mead as well, so you can have that at your table. So the food and the merriment begins. And then after the meal, when everything is packed away, the pine cones will be used as the offering to the natural environment, the offering given back from the community. So they would be rolled in peanut butter and bird seeds and then placed into different trees for the birds and the squirrels. If you can get like sunflower seeds, it's a great one for squirrels and chipmunks and things like that, or you can just have normal nuts and seeds that you put it in, but it's a really great way to give back. And in many pagan cultures, in many Wiccan circles, and many people who practice the craft, and in many pagan circles, in many Wiccan circles and practitioners of the craft, always want to be showing gratitude to the natural world and always want to give back when they are celebrating something like a Sabbat, because to take and take and take is not the way we want to interact with Mother Nature. And as most pagan religions and most spiritual paths that use the craft are so connected to nature, there needs to be that balance and that give and take. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about what's happening with the moon in September 21 and what kind of magics are about and what you can do. We start off on September 6th with a new moon in Virgo. This is a wonderful time to take stock of everything that you've done and start to really put the polish on very important tasks, knowing that you only have a few more months before it is the end of the year. And as we go more into winter, you're going to feel a lot more like hibernating. It's a very good idea to put that last push in for creative projects. Try not to get distracted at this time. If you do get distracted easily, put some things in place so you're not, because your inner perfectionist needs to come out so you can get some stuff done. On September 20th, 2021, we have the full moon in Pisces. This is a very dreamy, psychic moon. So it's a wonderful time to do any type of spirit communication with your ancestors, with people you want to honor. You may also want to do some dream magic around this time and really connecting with your intuition and honor what you really need on an emotional level. Native American peoples actually called the full moon in September closest to the autumn equinox the harvest moon. And this heralds back to the harvests that are happening in the natural world. This is also because most native people collect their crops in autumn. And this year it's 2 days from the actual autumn equinox. So it's a really good time to have a look at what you're harvesting in your life. In greater astrology, the sun starts to move into the sign of Libra, which is the sign of balance. It's also an air sign. With this energy, with all this Libran goodness coming into our lives, what we are being asked to do is actually to consider multiple sides of any type of issue, problem, or project that we are facing. You are also being asked to be fair and diplomatic when it comes to making decisions and solving problems. You will also find that with the sun moving into Libra, your relationships become something very important, as Libra rules the 7th house in astrology, which governs our relationships with other people. Most Sabbats are really about coming together and celebrating, coming together as a community, sharing what you have with others, and actually really celebrating that time. So it is not a surprise that Libra is the zodiac sign of relationships and communities. Look for how you can cooperate and work with others to make everything in your life much better. Don't hide away. It's not time to hide away yet. I know you're going to feel the urge to. It's going to be getting cooler outside. Everyone's drinking their pumpkin spice lattes and bundling up. It's kind of like my favorite time of year. But winter is the time you want to hibernate. You know, go out and see your friends and family if you can. Make sure you go and check out my article, which I wrote for Witchways, where I have a Mabon tarot spread for you to use as well. There's also a bunch of correspondences in that article as well that you can use for your magic and rituals for the autumn equinox. These are just some of the things that you can do for the moon cycles, for the magic, and for your community. It gives you a bit of an idea of what's happening in the celestial realm around the autumn equinox. I hope you've enjoyed this part and it has inspired you to do some magic and get together during the autumn equinox. I now have a prosperity spell that you can do during the autumn equinox and the season of Mabon using one of the fruits that are harvested at the second harvest, the apple. So what you're going to need for this spell is a red or green apple. Now, green is a color of prosperity, red is a color of life, and it also is the color of the trees at this time. So you can use either. You are going to need a green pencil or pen. If you can't have green, black is fine. You're going to need a knife, one that is strong and sharp enough to cut through your apple, a very small piece of pyrite or fool's gold, a chip even if you have it. This was the smallest one I had in my collection. And you can also substitute this stone with a green aventurine or another money stone. I'm using green washi, but you can also use elastics or ribbon. I use washi because it's a little sticky and it helps with the spell, as you will see. A cutting board. You're going to need a piece of paper, blank and small. So even this could probably be cut in two. And a check, a blank check if you can have one, or even just find a blank check sort of image on the internet and use that. I'm actually using one with my name on it because I actually want to do this spell for myself, and this is the reason why I'm not showing you the actual checkbook. The first step you're going to take is to write down a list of your needs for this spell and monetary needs and what it's for. And as close as you can, even if you can look up the price of what you're needing online, you may say maybe your credit card is $1,000 you need to pay off. So you'd put $1,000 to pay off my credit card, or $18,000 to pay off my car to own it, or whatever it may be. You want it to be as specific as possible. So you're going to write this all down. One of the things I've actually put for my own spell is some new furniture for my son. So I put a new bed, mattress, and desk, something that I would really like to do for him, and it is all itemized out on this list. That is an example of what you want to put in. Now you want to add, I know math is hard and it sucks, you want to put down your total. So you want to do some quick math. You can round it up. It's okay. No one's going to like clock you for it. And then write the check to yourself for that amount of money. You're not cashing it. This is just to manifest it to you. Yeah, you're not cashing it, but you want to write it out to you so the universe knows who to send it to. Do not throw this piece of paper away. You're going to need it. So pop that down and then write your check out. When it comes to the date of the check, because that's also quite important, you can put it a month away. That's a really good place to put it. So put it at, or the next Sabbat, which will be Samhain. Now you want to sign it from the universe. Yeah, sign it from the universe. All right, now you've got your check done. So you'll want to grab that check out of your checkbook and you're going to want to fold it up and also fold up your little piece of paper. So you're going to have both of these little things nesting in here. Something else you can do is kind of have them like facing each other and then fold them up. It's hard to show you the personal things, but I can't because that's not how magic works. So I folded it up nicely now. So I'm just going to pop her under the pumpkin just so it doesn't go anywhere. That's all. That's the writing segment of this spell. So now we're going to cut the apple. And now we're not going to cut the apple this way. We're going to cut the apple this way. Please be careful when you do this. Don't cut yourself. Now the reason why we're doing it this way is because, as you can see, there is a little pentagram in there, a little star, and the star is a sacred symbol: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. It is also encircled in a circle of the apple, which is for protection, and it also forms a pentagram. So we have got sacred symbols on both sides of the apple. You can, I'm leaving the seeds in, and you'll find out why in a moment. Now what you want to do is pop the pyrite or the crystal inside the apple. Give it a bit of a squeeze in. Okay, I've actually just put it in there by just pressing down. We want that to be in there. You can also add some herbs, like basil is a really good money herb if you want to pop that in there as well, but I wanted to keep this simple. Then you're going to place your check and your wish list. Watch Ethony struggle to put the apple back together. So now you're going to have it in a sandwich. So once you have figured out the orientation, your little Rubik's Cube, you want to secure it down. So this is why I'm using washi tape. You can also use a rubber band, but with a rubber band, it's going to be a little bit difficult because I'm going to have you bury this. So we don't want to put plastic into the ground. So use like baker's twine instead, because we don't want to be putting rubber bands into the ground. I'm using washi tape because it's what I had. Magic is all about using what you have. And it's green and gold for the colors of money. So I'm going to have to do this a couple of times. So I just wanted to get this down. So we're just going to secure the apple. Okay, so now the apple is secure and your check-in, everything is in there. Now I want you to hold the apple in your hands. Apple of prosperity, crystal of wealth, swiftly bring to me the money I desire, and even more as I will it so mote to be. Apple of prosperity, crystal of wealth, swiftly bring to me the money I desire, and even more as I will it so mote to be. So you can chant that for as many times as you want. 13 is a really good number. 8 is also a wonderful number for money. And then you can leave it on your altar, or if you're doing it around the full moon, that harvest moon during Mabon, I would suggest doing the spell and leaving it on your windowsill to get all the moon goodness, all that moon vibes in. And then the next morning, I want you to bury it in your garden. If you do not have a garden, you can compost it. So make sure whatever you're using is compostable inside. The paper is fine. And just ensure that you're not doing anything to pollute the planet. But it's great if you can put it in even in a community garden, if you can go and bury it, as it will disintegrate. The spell works by this being returned to the earth, returned to the ground, the under, just like Persephone goes under into the underworld and the seeds germinate, just as Mabon was taken and entombed in a stone cage. All of these things kind of work in the spirit of Mabon as well. And then as this decomposes and returns to the earth, the magic is sent out into the universe. Something to be aware of is to just let the magic work. Don't always be thinking about it or recalling it. Allow the universe to bring that magic to you in the way that is most beneficial to you. So don't think that the way you're going to get all this money is by winning the lottery, or the way you're going to get this money is from inheritance. Let the universe sort out the details. Just be open to receiving the wealth and the abundance when it comes back in, and be grateful and pay it forward if you can. As I mentioned with Libra and what is happening around the autumn equinox, it's very important for you to connect with your community to see what you can do to help make it a more positive and happy place. Here are some suggestions that you can do around this time, and please feel free to get other people involved. Bring your family into it, bring your kids into it, get your friends, recruit them if they can do something. It doesn't have to be a lot, and a lot of these things are extremely low cost, but can make a massive difference to somebody's life. Don't forget the elders in your community. I cannot say this loud enough and often enough. As we move into holidays, as we move into the colder months, the months where we feel most isolated, and let's face it, we have had a very tricky couple of years, do not forget our elders in the community. They can become very depressed and quite alone. So a recommendation, if you can't get to a community center or do any community work with elderly people because of COVID, is write them letters. There are so many pen pals for seniors organizations around that you can use and go and be a part of. Write them postcards, send them a book to read, get them involved with you or with some friends, and see how you can brighten their day and get some contact with the outside world. Maybe you're really into knitting. Maybe you're a crochet goddess, a savant maybe. Maybe you can make some booties for a children's hospital, or some beanies or toques for a children's hospital, or for charity. You like to make big old rugs or big old shawls or things like that, donate them to a homeless shelter or a women's and children's shelter. These are all ways that you can give back that may not be something that means you have to go out of your way, or something you can create with love. A big theme during this time, and it's going to actually take us from the autumn equinox all the way through to Yule, is honoring the ancestors and really remembering those who have passed in our family. So if you can put a little altar out, go visit people if they have a grave. If you have an urn or someone's ashes, actually spend some time connecting. You can do some readings with your ancestors, or even path working with them as well. Taking a small offering such as some maple syrup and some acorns or anything like that, pine cones, some beautiful leaves, and setting that out on a grave or even in your area is a wonderful way to remember your ancestors. In many areas of the world where paganism is a protected religion, there is Pagan Pride Day. Usually in Canada, for example, it is done around the end of August or in September. So go check out their local Pagan Pride organizations. You can find their groups on Facebook, or even go to their website, Pagan Pride. You can see any of the events around and even join any of those groups. Something that I found really cool is no matter where I am on the internet, so I just started on SwapBot, which you can do like pen pal swaps, they have a lot of witchy communities. So even getting into a witchy community like gamers or crafters can really help you feel connected and connect with people who may be extremely lonely at this time. Any way you celebrate it, whether it's a coven or by yourself, this is the season of giving and gratitude. So really show that gratitude attitude every single day. Autumn is definitely one of my favorite times of years, especially now I live in North America. The crispness in the air, the cool nights, the beautiful cardies and boots. And while I'm not into pumpkin spice lattes, I do love me a good hot chocolate and walking on the crunchy leaves. Take time to cherish the people around you, and I really hope that this video lesson has helped inspire you for the entire season. Be magical, be kind, and I'll see you later.